Everybody smiles right now. The Dow Jones surged more than 1,000 points yesterday, and the pundits on cable news can't stop beaming over what looks like good news on the surface, but then again, you look underneath, it's a different story. So even some of President Donald Trump's fiercest critics are rare applause. To be honest with you, it's nice to see people this optimistic for once. And of course, there's a part of me that doesn't want to break this mood. But let's be clear, I don't want to sugarcoat anything but give it to you straight, because it feels good, but it don't necessarily mean it's going to work. I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear if it means ignoring what's really going on, because the so-called deal with China that everyone's cheering about is not all sunshine and roses. And here's the truth, we don't actually have a trade deal. What we do have is the 90-day cooling off period, a temporary truce, a pause of tariff war where both sides agree to talk, and that's it. And there's a huge difference between that and a real binding agreement. But yes, during the 90-day window, are being significantly reduced on both sides. Yes, that is good news, but if we had pushed forward with a tariff on most Chinese imports, we could have seen widespread shortages and empty shelves across the USA. So this pause has bought us time, but it's still a pause, not a peace deal. So I want to share my 2 cents on what exactly this means and why it's not the silver bullet the markets are pretending it is. Let's talk about this one. All right, so I want to take a quick minute to share my thoughts on a recent 90-day pause, aka tariff deal that came out yesterday, and a lot of euphoria in the media was about that. A lot of people were extremely excited about that, and of course, the markets responded very favorably, but clearly doesn't signal an end to anything, but just more so a temporary delay to get us perhaps through the summer. But then again, I expect there to be some changes at some point during this whole negotiation phase that we're still in. So in this video here, I want to share my 2 cents on why the U.S. didn't really scrap all the tariffs, it just removed the latest ones, and also why China's being called a winner as well, and that should raise some eyebrows. And last, why everyday Americans are still getting squeezed, but yet a lot of people don't realize that just yet. So as always, if you guys want to hear more of these little short takes, definitely hit that thumbs up button to show your support. Drop a comment down below, let me know your thoughts on all this, and of course, if you're new, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an update when I put one of these quick takes out. But first, about these tariffs. See, most headlines yesterday claimed that the U.S. is drastically reducing tariffs on Chinese goods, but that's only part of the picture. So according to the White House itself, the only tariffs being lifted are the additional ones imposed on April 8th and 9th. Everything else is still in place. So that includes Section 301 tariffs, Section 232 tariffs, the 20% fentanyl-related tariffs, and the baseline most favored nation tariffs. So you add all that up, and we're still looking at about 50% tariff rate on Chinese imports. So I was actually combing through the news to get some of the latest commentary, and so Jason Miller from the War Room gave an interesting take when he said, we've got 50% tariffs on China, and they've got 10% on us, and he's not wrong. See, the numbers include all the layers, old and new. And here's the kicker. Treasury Secretary Bessent has already confirmed his 50% rate is the floor, not the ceiling. So even if we strike a permanent deal, we're not going lower than this. And so actually, let that sink in for a minute. And the second thing that a lot of people may not be realizing is that if this is such a victory for the U.S., then what about the perception of this trade deal in China? And so state media and influencers, officials were all over social media yesterday calling the deal that they struck a victory. They're claiming it validates their strategy, that their tough public posture paid off, and they walked away with few real concessions. So CCTV, the China's national broadcaster, said that their firm countermeasures proved to be very effective. So both sides are calling it a win. And so that should raise a lot of red flags. So in any serious negotiation, both sides don't walk away grinning unless one of them is not being honest. So either the U.S. is spending or China is, or maybe even both. And last, one thing that people really need to consider is how does all this affect your wallet? So even with a 90-day breather, prices on Chinese imports aren't going back to where they were before, not even close. So the overall effect of tariff rates Americans now face is about 17.8%. The highest since 1934. So according to the Yale Budget Lab, that's higher than during the Great Depression. So we're still importing a huge share of what we consume from China, from phone chargers to kids, toys, to appliances. And it's good to say when the CPI figures come out next, the cost of living is going to creep a lot higher as well. So if you're shopping at Walmart, on Target and Home Depot, or anywhere on a tight budget, you're going to fit for sure. And so people on the lower rungs, economic ladder, will get hit the hardest. And these are the folks already stretched thin by rising food prices, rent, stagnant wages. Now add all that together, you can expect higher prices on basic goods as well. And by the time people realize that this trade pause is nothing worth bragging about, it might be too late. So even if we do secure a permanent trade agreement, this isn't going away. The Secretary Bessent made it clear yesterday that this is about decoupling, slowly pulling the U.S. economy away from the dependence on Chinese goods. And while that might sound good strategically, the short-term pain is very real. See, decoupling isn't a light switch. It's more like trying to land a plane while pulling out all the seats. And all this is happening while the global economy is still slowing down. So you got layoffs piling up. And speaking of that, just yesterday, Eastside announced that it's cutting 20,000 jobs globally. And so that doubles what they planned just a few months ago. And then you got the Sutherland plant in the UK, could be on the chopping blocks as well. So this is not a one-off kind of deal here. These kinds of stories are becoming the norm. So at the end of the day, yes, this 90-day tariff truce is better than nothing. It gives us breathing room. It staves off a short-term disaster, but a 50% tariff rate on Chinese imports is still an economic hammer, and it's going to land hardest on the working Americans. And so markets might be celebrating right now, but the reality hasn't changed. We're still headed into economic turbulence, and the latest deal won't stop the landing gear from jamming. And this, my friends, is something worth talking about, which is an alternative perspective to what you will not hear on the mainstream media. So that's why I try to take the mainstream headline news, decipher it, and then deliver it to you in a way where it actually makes sense. And it's not what you're being told, it's what they're trying to sell you on, that this is going to be good for you. And all along we know it's not. So once again, the goal is to give you something to think about. Ain't no point in giving you all this information without giving you some possible strategies on how to protect and preserve everything you work hard for. Because at the end of the day, once all this trade stuff comes to a halt, the one guarantee I can give you is that you will have less purchasing power out of your currency than you do today. Just because the monetary system is based upon continuing to expand the monetary base, which dilutes your current purchasing power. So ultimately, you become poor. And that's why it's important to continue to get your weight up with gold and silver, of course, at the base layer. And then anything you do on top of that is mere speculation, but also can present opportunities as well. If you guys are interested in finding out more of possible strategies that I myself participate in, then scroll down below. You'll see a variety of links there to take you to places where you can join a silver community, buy gold in many forms, as well as the most affordable silver on the internet. But other than that, just taking a minute to share my 2 cents. Curious to hear what you think. If you found value, hit that thumbs up. Drop a comment, subscribe, share this so more people can get an alternative perspective, and I'll catch you guys later.